Before sunrise, fishermen are already pushing wooden boats into dark water. In the mountains, farmers begin walking toward coffee fields, hidden between steep green slopes. Children in school uniforms follow dusty roads toward small village classrooms. And in Dili, motorcycles begin filling the streets as another working day quietly starts. For many families here, life still depends entirely on the sea, the land, and the strength of the community surrounding them. Some live in neighborhoods shaped by rapid, visible change. Others remain in villages where traditions have survived, largely untouched, for generations. This is Timor-Leste, one of Southeast Asia's youngest countries, but a place where everyday life is shaped by something far older than its own independence: family, land, faith, and the quiet determination to build a future in a nation still finding its exact place in the modern world. The Timorese morning doesn't begin with an alarm clock. It begins with the gradual return of light. In a small village outside the town of Mobis, the scent of wood smoke curls from the kitchen of a traditional home. A mother is already awake, tending a small fire to cook the morning's rice before anyone else in the house has stirred. The sounds around her are simply the sounds of the village itself: low murmured voices, the laughter of children getting ready for school, the distant call of a pig or a goat somewhere just out of sight. Life here is woven entirely from the threads of family and community. A home does not end at its own walls. It extends outward to the neighbors, the cousins, the entire surrounding village. Children are never raised by two parents alone. They're raised by a whole web of aunts, uncles, grandparents, and elders, all sharing the weight of that responsibility together. If one family is struggling, others quietly share whatever little they have, without needing to be asked. This deep sense of collective identity, of shared responsibility, carried by everyone at once, is the bedrock this entire society is built on. It's a shield, forged slowly through centuries of shared history and shared hardship. What strikes you almost immediately here is the sheer difference in perspective between generations living under the very same roof. An elder sitting on the porch of their home has lived through multiple, entirely different lifetimes. They remember a childhood under Portuguese colonial rule, a brutal 24-year Indonesian occupation, and a devastating, hard-won struggle for independence that followed it. Their hands, weathered and strong, have built homes, farmed the land, and fought, quite literally, for the very existence of their nation. Their memories form a living archive of a history that remains recent, still raw, still close enough to touch. For their grandchildren, the world looks entirely different. A 20-year-old in the capital city of Dili has known only an independent Timor-Leste. Their world runs on smartphones, social media, and the quiet promise of a future their own grandparents could only have dreamed of. They navigate the city's growing traffic on a scooter, study at university, and speak a fluid mixture of the two official languages, Tetum and Portuguese, alongside whatever English they've picked up online. Have you ever sat at a family table where two completely different generations seemed to be living in two entirely different worlds, and yet somehow still understood each other perfectly? I think Timor-Leste holds that exact feeling more intensely than almost anywhere else on Earth, and I'd genuinely love to hear about a moment like that from your own family in the comments below. And yet, despite these real differences, the core of life here remains fundamentally the same. The young person living in Dili will still make the long journey home to their family's village for holidays and ceremonies, no matter how inconvenient that trip becomes. They will still show deep, unwavering respect to their elders, listening closely to their stories, seeking their guidance before any major decision. In Timor-Leste, the past isn't some distant country you visit occasionally. It's a constant, living presence, standing quietly alongside the ambitions of an entirely new generation, shaping the identity of a nation that is still, in many real ways, finding its footing in the wider world. To understand the people here, you first have to understand their land. This is a country defined almost entirely by its verticality. A spine of rugged, forest-clad mountains runs the full length of the island, with peaks like Mount Ramelau soaring to nearly 3,000 meters into the sky. This isn't simply a geographical feature to admire from a distance. It is, without question, the single greatest force shaping how people here actually live. The mountains dictate where people can settle, what they're able to grow, and how far they can realistically travel in a single day. They create a kind of natural isolation, separating communities sitting in deep valleys that might be only a few kilometers apart as measured by a crow's flight, but can take hours to actually travel between, along winding, often unpaved roads. During the rainy season, running from November through May, a sudden downpour can turn a dry riverbed into a raging torrent within minutes, cutting a village off completely for days at a time. A single landslide can block the only road leading to a remote community, making it genuinely impossible to reach a market or a clinic until it's cleared. If you're ready for this journey, drop a comment right now, telling me exactly where in the world you're watching this from. Hit the like button, subscribe to Legends TV, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story we bring you from the far, quiet corners of this planet. Because what comes next, the mountains that isolate entire villages for days, the coffee that connects a family's survival to a cafe in London, the history that still lives in every elder's hands, is a story worth staying for. Let's continue. This challenging terrain forges a spirit of incredible self-reliance among the people living within it. In a remote mountain village, your neighbor is your first responder, your support system, and your closest genuine link to the outside world. Survival here has always depended on the strength of the community around you, on the deep understanding that you must rely on one another, when real help sits hours, sometimes days, away. The landscape also creates a stark contrast between the interior of the island and its coast. While the mountains stay cool, often shrouded in a low, drifting mist, the coastal plains run hot and dry, covered in savanna and eucalyptus trees that feel closer to the Australian outback than to the rest of Southeast Asia. Along the coast, life orients itself entirely around the sea. Fishing, salt farming, and trade have long been the mainstays holding these coastal communities together. This is exactly why a journey of just 100 kilometers here can genuinely feel like crossing an entire country. It explains why a farmer working the mountains might live a life almost completely disconnected from a government official sitting in Delhi, and why development and opportunity, concentrated so heavily in the capital, have been so painfully slow to reach the far, remote corners of this nation. Life here looks the way it does because the mountains, quite simply, made it that way. As the sun clears the mountain peaks each morning, the day's rhythms take hold across the country. For children in rural areas, the school day begins with a genuine journey. Not a ride on a yellow bus waiting at the curb, but a walk, sometimes lasting more than an hour, along steep dirt paths carved into the hillside. They walk together in loose groups, their bright uniforms forming a splash of color against the deep green landscape around them, their chatter echoing quietly through the still morning air. Their walk, repeated every single school day without complaint, stands as a daily testament to the hope that education represents a genuinely different kind of future than the one their parents had access to. In the coastal town of Liquisar, the fishing boats are returning as the morning wears on. Their arrival becomes a small community event each time it happens. Families gather along the beach to help pull the boats ashore and sort through the morning's catch together. The air fills with the smell of the sea and the steady sound of bargaining as women buy fresh fish to carry to the local market before the heat sets in. Nothing here goes to waste. The smallest fish get salted and dried in the sun, set aside to be eaten in the leaner months still to come. In Dili, the capital, the day moves to an entirely different beat altogether. The streets become a chaotic but strangely functional ballet of motorcycles, battered yellow taxis, and microleds, small, brightly decorated buses that form the backbone of the country's public transport system. People head toward work in government offices, in the shops and restaurants lining the waterfront, or toward the countless construction sites where the city's new face is slowly, steadily taking shape. By midday, the tropical heat turns genuinely intense. The pace of life slows everywhere at once. People seek out shade. The streets grow noticeably quieter. This becomes a time for rest, for a shared meal, for a brief pause before the work of the afternoon eventually resumes. Have you ever lived somewhere that the heat itself dictated the shape of your entire day? whether you wanted it to or not. I'd love to hear about that in the comments below, because I think that shared rhythm, forced by climate rather than chosen by habit, connects more of us across the world than we usually realize. As the sun begins dipping toward the horizon, casting a golden light across the landscape, the flow of life quietly reverses itself. Farmers walk back from their fields, tools resting easily over their shoulders. Children, their school day finally finished, play games together in the village square until the light fades. In Dili, evening traffic builds steadily as people make their way home for the night. Life draws inward everywhere at once. Families gather close. The evening meal stays simple, usually rice with vegetables, perhaps some fish, or a small piece of meat if the day allowed for it. It's a meal grown from the family's own land, or bought carefully with the day's earnings, and it's shared together without exception. When darkness falls here, it falls completely. With electricity still limited across most villages, the night stays quiet, broken only by the sound of insects and the low murmur of conversation drifting between homes. This becomes a time for storytelling, for passing down the history of the family and the wider community to whoever is listening that night. It's in these quiet moments, sitting beneath a sky brilliant with stars unclouded by any city light, that the culture here stays genuinely alive, a precious inheritance passed carefully from one generation directly to the next. You cannot understand life in Timor-Leste without first understanding the central role family plays here, and the complex, intricate tapestry of traditions that quietly govern it. The family unit is never a small, isolated nucleus. It's a sprawling, deeply interconnected network of relatives that functions as the primary social safety net for everyone within it. This finds its clearest expression in the concept of the Lulik, the sacred house, the ancestral home that serves as the spiritual center of an entire clan. These traditions blend ancient animist beliefs with a deep-seated Catholic faith, a legacy carried forward from 400 years of Portuguese rule. On a Sunday morning, the churches scattered across towns and villages fill completely, the sound of hymns sung in Tetum echoing steadily through the community. But alongside that Christian faith, older beliefs remain genuinely powerful here too. Ceremonies to honor ancestors, to bless a new home, or to ensure a good harvest still form an essential part of daily life, particularly out in the rural areas where these traditions run deepest. This blend of influences shows up everywhere you look. It's woven directly into the language, Tetum, which carries countless Portuguese loanwords inside it. It's present in the music too, which combines the melancholic melodies of Portuguese fado with local rhythms and instruments passed down through generations. One of the most visible expressions of Timorese culture is the ties, a traditional hand-woven textile. Each region across the country carries its own unique patterns and colors, distinct enough that a person familiar with the craft can often tell exactly where a piece came from at a glance. And the ties is far more than simply a piece of cloth. It's worn at weddings, at funerals, at official ceremonies of every kind. It's given as a gift to show genuine respect and to seal relationships that matter. The patterns woven into the fabric tell stories of the weaver's own ancestors, of the natural world surrounding them, of the history carried by their specific community. To watch a woman sitting at a simple backstrap loom, patiently weaving threads into an intricate design that will take days to finish, is to watch a culture being kept alive, one single thread at a time. Have you ever watched someone practice a skill passed down through generations and realized in that moment you were witnessing something far bigger than the object itself being made? I'd love to hear about a moment like that in the comments below, because I think the ties carries exactly that weight for the people who still weave it today. These are not traditions performed for tourists passing through. They are the living, breathing fabric of society itself. You see it in the way an entire community comes together to build a house for a newly married couple. You see it in the elaborate ceremonies accompanying a funeral. You see it in the deep respect shown to elders, who are viewed here as the keepers of wisdom, and the living link connecting the present to the ancestors who came before. In Timor-Leste, culture isn't something you simply observe from a distance. It's the way you actually live, every single day. The story of this country is, at its heart, a tale of two profoundly different worlds. The bustling, modernizing capital of Dili and the quiet, traditional life of the rural villages, where the majority of the population still lives today. Dili is a city built on energy and aspiration. It functions as the center of government, of commerce, of education for the entire nation. Here, you'll find supermarkets stocked with imported goods, modern cafes overlooking the sea, a growing number of cars, and air-conditioned office buildings rising steadily along the skyline. For young people arriving from across the country, Dili represents genuine opportunity, a chance at a university education, a salaried job, a real connection to the wider world beyond these shores. The streets themselves testify to this, filled with young professionals, students, and entrepreneurs, all quietly striving to build a future for themselves and their country at the same time. But this urban life carries its own particular pressures too. The cost of living runs high. Formal jobs remain scarce. Many people live packed into crowded neighborhoods, with limited infrastructure supporting them. The city can feel genuinely anonymous at times, a sharp, sometimes lonely contrast to the tight-knit communities many of these same people left behind. Leave Dili, and the entire landscape of life changes dramatically within a short drive. Just an hour into the mountains, the paved roads give way to dirt tracks. Concrete buildings are replaced by traditional homes, built from wood, bamboo, and thatch. The economy itself shifts from cash to subsistence, almost overnight. Out here, life isn't governed by a clock, it's governed by the seasons. Wealth isn't measured in money, but in the health of a family's livestock, the size of the year's corn harvest, the strength of the community bonds surrounding a household. The challenges of rural life remain immense here. Access to healthcare, to quality education, to reliable electricity stays limited across much of the country. A simple trip to the nearest market can become a long, genuinely arduous journey. And yet, for many, this same life offers a sense of peace, a connection to the land, a sense of belonging that the city simply cannot replicate, no matter how much opportunity it holds. Many families end up living with a foot planted firmly in both worlds at once. A father might work a construction site in Dili, sending money home each month to his family still living in the village. A young woman might move to the city to study, while her heart and her sense of identity remain rooted firmly in the mountain community where she was actually born and raised. This constant negotiation between the pull of tradition and the push toward modernity stands as one of the central, defining stories of contemporary Timor-Leste. For most Timorese families, the earth itself remains the primary employer. Subsistence agriculture forms the entire foundation of the rural economy here. Families cultivate small plots of land, growing exactly what they need to survive: maize, rice, cassava, sweet potatoes, and vegetables suited to whatever soil they've inherited. The work stays physically demanding, done almost entirely by hand, using simple tools passed down through generations rather than machinery. A good harvest means food reliably on the table. A bad harvest, caused by too little rain, or sometimes too much, can mean a genuinely hungry season stretching ahead. Any small surplus gets carried to the local market and sold for cash. That cash becomes precious. It pays school fees for the children, it covers medicine when someone falls ill, it buys salt, cooking oil, and mobile phone credit, the small, practical costs that quietly define a family's entire month. If this journey through Timor-Leste's daily rhythm is resonating with you the way it did with me while researching it, take a moment now and hit that like button. It genuinely helps a story like this one reach more people who would find it just as moving as you clearly have. In the highlands, the single most important cash crop is coffee. Timor-Leste produces some of the finest organic Arabica coffee found anywhere in the world, grown patiently in the shade of large native trees. For farming families in districts like Omera and Aileu, the coffee harvest stands as the single most important economic event of their entire year. The income earned from selling those beans to a cooperative has to be carefully managed to last the whole year ahead, stretched thin across school fees, medicine, and every other need a family might face before the next harvest finally arrives. In the cities, The economic landscape looks entirely different, but no less demanding in its own way. Formal employment stays limited, with the government standing as the largest single employer across the country. Many people instead find work in the informal sector, driving a microlet through Delhi's crowded streets, selling goods from a roadside stall, or working as a day laborer on one of the city's countless construction sites. These jobs often carry real insecurity, low and unpredictable wages that can shift week to week without warning. The cost of living, especially in Delhi, runs surprisingly high. Because Timor-Leste has very little domestic industry of its own, nearly all manufactured goods, from electronics to clothing to processed foods, have to be imported, driving prices up accordingly. A bag of rice, the absolute staple of the national diet, can consume a significant portion of a family's entire weekly budget. Rent for even a simple room in the capital can become a genuine struggle for anyone earning a low wage. The nation's broader economy leans heavily on revenue from its offshore oil and gas fields. That money funds the government and major infrastructure projects across the country, but its impact on the daily lives of ordinary families often stays fairly indirect, felt more in slow, gradual change than in any immediate difference at the kitchen table. For most people here, economic life remains a constant, daily balancing act, managed through sheer resourcefulness, hard work, and the crucial, unwavering support of the extended family network surrounding them. To truly understand the connection between a remote Timorese village and the wider global economy, you have to travel up into the coffee-growing highlands yourself. Here, in the cool mountain air, generations of families have cultivated coffee trees beneath the canopy of native forest, the same trees their grandparents once tended. The day for a coffee farmer begins early. They walk, sometimes for an hour or more, to reach their family's coffee garden, a plot of land that may have been passed down through 3 or 4 generations already. During harvest season, the entire family becomes involved at once. Work turns intensive. Ripe red coffee cherries are picked carefully by hand, one by one, never rushed. The process stays slow and genuinely meticulous. Cherries are brought back to the village, where they're pulped, fermented, then washed thoroughly in clean mountain water, drawn from a nearby stream. Finally, the beans are spread out across tarps to dry in direct sun, turned by hand throughout the day to make sure they dry evenly on every side. For these families, coffee is never simply a crop growing on a hillside. It's their main, and sometimes their only, source of cash income for the entire year ahead. The money earned from that single harvest determines whether children can be sent to high school that year, whether a home can finally see the improvements it's needed for years, whether a medical emergency can actually be covered when it arrives without warning. Have you ever depended on a single source of income so completely that its success or failure shaped everything else in your life for an entire year? I want to hear about that in the comments below, because I think that specific kind of pressure connects more of us than we usually stop to consider. The journey these coffee beans take afterward is remarkable in its own right. From a small family farm in the mountains of Timor-Leste, they travel down treacherous, winding roads to a processing facility. From there, they're shipped out to roasters and cafes in cities like Melbourne, London, and New York. The person drinking a latte in a busy city cafe somewhere is unlikely to ever picture the farmer whose careful, patient hard work actually produced the coffee sitting in their cup. For that farmer, this global connection functions as both a genuine lifeline and a real source of vulnerability at the same time. The price they receive for their coffee gets determined by a global market thousands of kilometers away, a market they have absolutely no control over. A sudden dip in world coffee prices can devastate a family's income overnight, wiping out months of careful, patient labor in a single season. And yet, despite these real challenges, they continue cultivating their coffee with genuine pride, their lives standing as quiet testament to the hard work connecting the soil of Timor-Leste to the rest of the world, one cup at a time. To walk through a village in Timor-Leste is to walk through living history. The quiet resilience carried by the people today can only be fully understood through the lens of their tumultuous, hard-won past. An older woman, her face carrying the map of a long and genuinely difficult life, remembers a time before the wars ever came. She remembers the stories her own grandparents told her, of a distant, often neglectful Portuguese colonial administration that governed from far away. But her most vivid memories, the ones that still surface without warning, come from the 24 years of Indonesian occupation that began in 1975. It was a period of brutal conflict and immense widespread suffering, one in which it's estimated that roughly a quarter of the entire population perished. She remembers hiding in the mountains, the constant fear, the loss of family members she still speaks of quietly, even now. Her entire generation fought and sacrificed everything for a single powerful idea: independence. When the Timorese people finally voted overwhelmingly for independence in a UN-sponsored referendum in 1999, the backlash arrived swift and genuinely violent. Pro-Indonesia militias destroyed most of the country's existing infrastructure in the aftermath, forcing hundreds of thousands of people from their homes almost overnight. The nation that was finally born in 2002 stood as one of the poorest in the entire world, a country left in ruins that had to be rebuilt from scratch, brick by brick, family by family. This history isn't some abstract chapter sitting quietly inside a textbook somewhere. It's a collection of personal stories, of trauma and survival, carried directly by nearly everyone over the age of 40 walking these streets and hillsides today. Contrast that generation with a young Timorese student walking through Dili today. They were born after the conflict ended entirely. They've grown up in a free Timor-Leste, one that never had to be explained to them as something recently won. Their identity isn't defined by a struggle against an occupier the way their grandparents' was. It's defined instead by the challenge of building an entirely new nation from whatever foundation was left behind. They carry real pride in their country's hard-won independence, but their focus stays fixed forward, on finding a job, on building a career, on making their country genuinely better than the one they inherited. This generational divide stands as one of the most profound, ongoing dynamics in Timorese society today. It shapes conversations around the dinner table. It shapes debates about the nation's future direction. It shapes, quietly but constantly, the very definition of what it actually means to be Timorese in the 21st century, caught between two entirely different inherited experiences of the same small country. With all of these challenges laid bare, the limited jobs, the difficult roads, the constant struggle to make a stable living, the question worth asking becomes genuinely simple. Why do people stay? Why do they choose, again and again, to build their lives in these mountains and along these shores, when leaving might offer an easier path? The answer isn't really about economics at all. It's about something deeper, something that resists being measured in dollars and cents, no matter how carefully you try. It's the unbreakable bond of family, stretched across generations and geography alike. It's the comfort of living inside a community where you know every single face, and every face knows yours in return. It's the profound sense of belonging that rises directly from the land itself, not from anything built on top of it. To live in Timor-Leste is to become part of a story far larger than your own single life. It's to feel the presence of your ancestors inside the sacred houses and beneath the ancient trees that still mark family land. It's to know, with real certainty, that the ground you farm today was farmed by your own great-grandparents, generations before you were ever born. It's the quiet pride of living inside a nation that fought so hard and sacrificed so much simply to be free. Have you ever stayed somewhere, or chosen to return somewhere, for a reason that had absolutely nothing to do with money or convenience? I'd genuinely love to hear about that in the comments below, because I have a feeling more of you understand exactly what keeps the Timorese people here than you might initially expect. People stay for the peace that comes from the immense silence found deep in the mountains. They stay for the freedom carried on the open sea stretching along their coast. They stay because this has always been more than simply a place to live. It's the source of their identity, their language, their culture, their strength, all woven together into something that doesn't easily transplant elsewhere. In a world growing increasingly disconnected, a world defined more and more by noise and speed, Timor-Leste remains a place of genuinely profound human connection. It stands as a quiet reminder that a rich, meaningful life can be built from the most essential things available to anyone. From the land, from the sea, from each other, and nothing more elaborate than that. And it's here, on this rugged half-island caught between two oceans and 2 centuries, that the Timorese people continue living their daily lives, a quiet, dignified testament to the enduring power of family, community, and home, carried forward one generation at a time. If this journey through Timor-Leste moved you even a fraction as much as it moved me while researching it, take a moment now and hit that like button, subscribe to Legends TV, and let me know in the comments which part of this story stayed with you the longest: the mother lighting a fire before dawn, the elder who remembers the occupation, or the coffee farmer whose entire year depends on a market half a world away. Thank you for coming this far with me. We'll see you in the next story.